Hello and welcome to Dabbling in Journals. And if you haven't seen me here before, my name is Ali, and in this video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I want to focus on discussing how I use journaling to help me cope with the symptoms of my mental health disorders. Now, a trigger warning, I will be discussing symptoms of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, symptoms of dissociative identity disorder, and symptoms of depression. If you think that is something that you would find triggering to hear me talk about those symptoms, then please do click off this video now. It is not my intention to upset anybody, and I want to make it really clear so that this video doesn't, as I said, upset anybody. What I do want to do is try to have an open discussion of the symptoms of these disorders in the hope that it might help other people who are struggling with these problems. And I think it's also going to be good for me because I have spent most of my life hiding my symptoms. I've put so much energy into hiding my symptoms, and I have got to the point now where I would feel, I think, more comfortable to talk about them, albeit on YouTube where I'm not actually faced with any real people. Well, you are real people, of course you are real people, but you're not right in the room with me right now. But I have got to the point where I've been struggling a lot lately, and so I have decided to have another go at therapy. I have been looked after by psychiatrists and my GP, and I have had a couple of years of therapy, which sadly ended badly, and it took me ages and ages and ages to get to the point where I thought I could try therapy again. And as far as I know, the only way to recover from most of these conditions is through therapy. So I have found myself a qualified clinical psychologist who specialises in complex trauma, and I'm going to pluck up the courage to give it another go. And just to start that off, I thought I would share that with you, and I thought I would share the way that I use journaling, because my channel is all about journaling, the way I use journaling to help me cope with my symptoms. And I'm going to be setting up a journal later in the video, which will be a journal that I'm using for self-care and therapy. So let's just, for those of you that don't know what it is, complex post-traumatic stress disorder is just like PTSD, except for the fact that it's complex, and the complex refers to the complexity of the trauma that causes the condition. With complex PTSD, as I said, the trauma is complex. It often happens very early, so it begins in young childhood. It goes on for a lot of years. The child feels that they can't escape, and often the perpetrator is somebody that the child trusts, that is a caregiver of that child. So let's have a think about what the symptoms are. For me, one of the worst symptoms is flashbacks. And it's not so much that's because, for me, experientially, that's really terrible, because usually I don't even remember them. But if I have a flashback, I re-experience the trauma that I suffered as a child. I feel it, I feel any pain, I feel any emotional distress, I behave as if those things are happening to me. And that's really, really distressing for any of my family members to witness, and I think that's why I consider it such a horrible symptom, because I hate the fact that it's not just me that's suffering, but also people that I care about. So flashbacks is something that I really want to work on with my therapist. I used to have a lot of nightmares. I don't have so many nightmares now, but that's mainly due to medication. I have medication that just like knocks me out all night, so I don't have the nightmares. I do try really hard to avoid triggers, and that really limits what I can do in my day-to-day life, because I don't want to go near anything that might potentially trigger me. I'm very hypervigilant, so what that means is you're looking out all the time for danger. So say I go into a restaurant with my daughter to have some lunch. I would have to really carefully scan the restaurant. I would have to make sure that I'm sitting with my back to a wall, so there's nobody behind me, that I can see the entrances and the exits and so on, because I'm looking out for danger all of the time. And this then also causes a problem, along with an exaggerated startle response. It means I can't drive a car, because if something startles me, I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm like completely over the top startled. But if I was driving a car, that would mean I would do an emergency stop. Now, you can't drive a car if you're going to wander around doing emergency stops at who knows what imagined thing. So I also have other symptoms that prevent me from driving, but hypervigilance and an exaggerated startle response are problematic. I have very excessive emotional reactions. If somebody says something to me that is like really mildly upsetting, I'll be catastrophic. I will be so upset. My emotions will just go all over the place. I'll be convinced the person hates me, never wants to see me again, even if it's a close family member. I mean, the exaggerated emotional responses are really difficult for other people to cope with. I mean, a lot of these symptoms are harder, I feel, on my family members than they are on me. I have a lot of negative thoughts and emotions. Now, those are hard on me. I feel a lot of shame. I feel guilt. I feel like I'm a failure, that I'm worthless. I don't believe those things, but I feel those things all of the time, and a very persistent sadness. So those are the main sort of complex PTSD symptoms that I have to struggle with. But I also have dissociative episodes. There's a number of those that are particularly problematic. For a start, I can go into trance-like states where I have dissociated. I don't do anything. I'm just in a dissociated state. I'm in a trance. I do nothing. This is one of the main things that stopped me from working, because I was a university lecturer. I used to have to do a lot of marking, for example. I might sit at my desk to start marking, and 3 hours later I come to and realise I've done absolutely nothing and I have no clue what happened to that time and no memory of it. But I'm still sat at my desk. Now, obviously, you can't meet deadlines if that's how you behave. I also have amnesia of the actual trauma that I experienced. I have some memories, but not very many. I have amnesia of daily events. I mean, sometimes I can start off, I might sit at my desk to do a drawing, say, and then I find myself I come to and I'm in a completely different part of the house, and I have no memory of getting there. I don't know how I got there. It's really disorientating and frightening. And what's worse, sometimes I might leave the house. So I will start off, say again, at my desk to do a bit of journaling, and then I find myself in a completely different part of the village. And that's really scary. I mean, I found myself in the middle of roundabouts where I could have got run over. I mean, presumably I know how to cross roads and things when I'm in those states, but I have no memory of them. So it's the amnesia, which is really very frightening and dangerous. And it's unclear whether or not I can keep myself safe in those states. So obviously my family members try to be vigilant and keep an eye on me and see where I am all the time. But obviously that makes me feel like it's embarrassing. I mean, is that ridiculous? I find it so embarrassing, some of the things that I do. I sometimes find that I've bought things and I don't remember buying them. For me, quite often it will be sweeties, you know, the kind of sweeties that little children eat. I'll find a pile of those somewhere and I think, well, where did they come from? I don't remember going out and buying those, which clearly I have done. And I'll check my bank and I can see that I've used my card or whatever. I always get scared in case I've stolen them or something, but so far I haven't ever done, not as far as I know. I don't think I've ever stolen anything. But yeah, I can find things that I don't remember purchasing. And luckily, my dissociated self doesn't seem to know how to do online purchasing. So, but I guess I could just send stuff back if I did that. But that is a really horrible symptom. Another symptom that I have is feeling disconnected from the world, sometimes disconnected from myself. Sometimes I think the world isn't real. Sometimes I feel it's real, but I'm not part of it. So that's quite an unpleasant symptom. I'm just looking at my notes if you're wondering why I'm looking down, because I didn't want to miss anything. I hide pain. Well, that's a good thing. When if I'm in a lot of pain, like physical pain, I can dissociate it. And I guess it's in the same way that dissociated trauma when I was a child. So for example, when I was in labour with my son, we arrived at the hospital. The midwife took a look at me and thought, well, they're not in any rush, popped me in a room and then went away, because according to my partner, I was showing absolutely no outward sign of pain, even though inside I thought I was going to break in half and the baby's going to pop out any minute. When the midwife came back, she was like, oh, you know, she took her time, she was chatting about all the procedures, and I was thinking, hurry up, hurry up. And once she examined me, all hell broke loose, because the baby was actually about to be born, and there wasn't time for them to do anything. He was on his way, because I dissociated the pain. And that's something that I learned to do as a child, and I can still do, which in some ways, I mean, it's better than pethidine, maybe. That I didn't have to have that, but what are those things they give people now? Epidurals. I didn't need anything like that, because I just dissociated the pain. So I can do that, but it's not always a good thing. And I do get a lot of physical pain, because you get like body memories from abuse, and so you get pain that isn't really explained by anything that's happened now. So, and the last thing I should mention is depression. A lot of these kinds of mental health struggles are accompanied by depression, which can be very low mood, suicidal thoughts. I mean, suicidal thoughts are something I struggle with all the time, and I just keep thinking of my children. I love my children. They would be so sad if I wasn't here. But when I have taken overdoses, it's always been in a dissociated state, and I've had no memory of it afterwards. I personally, like me now, this real me, doesn't want to do that, but I do get the thoughts, I mean, because I find everything so hard. So that's something that a lot of people with mental health illnesses struggle with, is suicidal thoughts. And then, you know, my heart goes out to anybody out there who is struggling with any of those conditions and doesn't have a supportive family around them that's taking care of them, because you really need that support to keep you safe. And I do consider myself to be really, really fortunate that I have it. And so I am going to stop chuntering on now about all of those things, but I wanted to give an impression, at least a brief impression, of what it's like to live with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Potentially, I may have dissociative identity disorder as well. I certainly dissociate a lot, and according to my son, he talks to me when I'm in dissociated states, and he feels like he's talking to distinct and different people, but they're all part of me. I mean, they're just part of me, I guess, but they don't talk to me. They talk to him, but they don't talk to me. So that's something that I'm going to be talking about with my psychologist once I start therapy, to see if she can help me integrate those different parts of myself. And all you can do is hope. You have to go into therapy and think, I'm going to just hope really hard that it helps, and work really hard at it. So on that note, I'm going to turn the camera around, because I want to share with you all the different ways in which I use journaling to help me cope with all of these horrible symptoms. And I'm going to be starting therapy next week. I can't decide whether or not I should do videos on that process, because I think if you, the viewer, are watching this and you're struggling with any of these symptoms, what you need to do is go and see a health professional, preferably somebody experienced in dealing with trauma and trauma-related illnesses. Having said that, it can be really nice for those of us that are survivors of childhood trauma to share our experiences and get ideas of each other. So I'll have a little think. You tell me in the comments whether or not you think it might be helpful for any of you if I were to share some of the journaling processes that I go through as I work through this current bout of therapy. I certainly won't be sharing anything that I think might be triggering, but obviously I can't always know what would trigger people, and so there's always a risk, and I'm going to be very aware of that. So let me turn the camera around and share some of my journaling for self-care and therapy with you all. Right, so I have decided to use this olive traveller's notebook from Traveller's Company for my self-care stroke therapy journal. Now, obviously, you can use any kind of notebook you like. If you know, whatever you, it doesn't really matter what you're writing. I just happen to love Traveller's notebooks. So that's what I'm going to use, and I'm going to show you some of the different kinds of journaling I do in order to promote self-care and healing. Now, one of the best, in my opinion, is happy memory keeping, and this is an example of a journal I'm just finishing up at the moment, which is full of happy memories. And I think it's so important for anybody's self-care, not just people with mental health challenges. It's really important to focus on the positive aspects of your life, because you can get lost in despair and sadness and hopelessness and forget that there is good in the world. So I do happy memory keeping, and so for example, here is a spread where I've got a photograph of my grandson on his first birthday and other little bits of photos about the party. Here I've got a spread where I'm celebrating gifts that I were given, and if you have been following my channel, you'll have seen these before. This was a spread where I was celebrating seeing my son acting in a play. I like keeping little bits of memorabilia. I use photographs, I use stickers, I like to decorate, but you don't have to do any of that. You can just write, and you could just write and put in a photograph if you wanted. You know, you can just do it however you like. So I find this a really useful way to self-soothe and promote healing by focusing on the positives. I'm not actually going to put this one or this kind of insert in my self-care therapy journal because I like to carry mine around with me. So I have another traveller's notebook here, which is the one in which I keep my happy memory keeping insert along with my planner and other bits and pieces. So I carry that around with me. I'm not going to put it in my self-care journal, but I just wanted to mention it because I think it's one of the most important kinds of journaling that I found helpful. Now, another thing which is like really positive is to do gratitude journaling. Now, some people do gratitude journaling in a way where they just write down really quickly one or two things that they're grateful for each day. And some people find that a really helpful way to do gratitude journaling. So it's not just focusing on happiness, but also being grateful for the things that make you happy or that are good in your life. And the only thing I found is by trying to write something down every day, I kept writing the same things because I'm grateful every day for the same things, really. So I decided to approach it slightly differently. And I started this, and then I don't know why, I sort of abandoned it, like lack of time or something, I suppose. But I'm going to go back and focus on this again. I've covered this paper with coffee. And again, if you've followed my channel for a long time, you probably will have seen this before. So on this first spread, I just thought of 3 things that I really enjoy. So I'm grateful for those things that I enjoy. And then I moved on, and for example, I did a spread here. This is my partner, Ewan. I'm really grateful for the fact that we have a positive relationship. I have a long history of failed relationships, and this relationship is positive and has been long lasting and really, really good for me. So I've just journaled about how grateful I am for that. Here I'm with my eldest daughter, and we're dressed up as witches because it was her birthday, and then her birthday's on Halloween, and she's my eldest daughter and she has 3 children, and I'm really grateful for all the things that she does for me. And yeah, so I did a spread on that. Here, this is my younger daughter. So Kiliana is 6 years older than Ria, but they're both grown up. And obviously I'm really grateful for her too, so I did a spread on her. And I might have another occasion where I do something with one of my girls, and I feel really grateful for that, or of course my son. So that's definitely going in my therapy journal. So that's 2 positive ways of journaling. Now, another way in which I journal, which is a little bit more risky if you have a mental health condition, and that is stream of consciousness journaling. So what that entails is that you just get your journal out, you open it up to a blank page, and you just write. And you don't think about what you're going to write, you just write what's ever in your head. You might want to get out some negative feelings. You might want to, who knows what you're going to write about if you don't like pre-plan it. And that can be really helpful for discovering things that are on your mind, helping you get things off your mind. The only reason I say that it's a little bit risky is if you struggle like I do with things like depression or C-PTSD or whatever, it's possible that if you start writing in here and you start thinking about negative thoughts, you might spiral into a much darker place. So what I do to make sure that doesn't happen is I always put a timer. So if I'm sat at my desk, I'll put a timer of 5 minutes on my phone, and then I'll start writing, and when the timer goes off, I'll look at what I've been writing and reflect and think, is this helping me feel better, or am I spiraling into a darker place? And if it's the latter, I stop. And if it's not, if I think it's helping me, then I might do another 5 minutes. Or 5 minutes might be enough anyway. So just be a little bit careful with this kind of stream of consciousness journaling, especially if you're not currently in therapy and don't have anybody that can make sure that they can keep you safe if you're doing that sort of thing. But I'm going to put this in my therapy journal. So I've got my gratitude insert, I've got my stream of consciousness insert, and I haven't used this one for a while because I was doing it in a like pocket size one, but I'm going to move back into this size so that it can all be together in my journal. And the next thing that I'm going to put in my self-care therapy journal, and this is a new insert, I haven't used it yet, is this is going to be for taking notes whilst I'm actually in a therapy session. And the reason that I want to do that is because I dissociate, and it might be that I'll dissociate in a therapy session and afterwards I won't remember a word that was said by either me or the therapist. So it might be helpful to take notes. Now I can't be sure that in a dissociated state I will actually take notes, but maybe I can ask my therapist to remind me that that's something that I have decided I would like to do. And then we might be able to explore whether or not there are fragmented parts of my personality that we need to address. So that is something that's very specific to me, but you could put in your therapy journal anything, or self-care journal, anything that you particularly want to work on. And these little short inserts are really good for that. And if my therapist herself has a suggestion for some kind of journaling she'd like me to do, I can just add another one of these, and then I'm keeping all these different kinds of journaling separate. Now the last kind of journaling I wanted to share with you, which is definitely one that I would never recommend unless you're actually in therapy with a qualified psychologist or therapist, is journaling about your symptoms. Now I did this when I was in therapy previously. It was quite a few years ago now, and I didn't finish this journal because when the therapy stopped, and it stopped very suddenly without warning, and I was very, very distressed about it, and I stopped doing this kind of journaling because I didn't feel that it was something I could safely do by myself. But I might decide that I want to pick this journal up now that I'm going back into therapy again. It's taken me a lot of years and it's really terrifying to me. So I need a lot of courage to get through that. But I'll just show you a few pages. Some of them are a bit too disturbing and triggering, but I'll show you a few pages to show what I was doing here. So I was doing a mixed media journal. Now obviously you don't need to do mixed media journaling. It's just something that I find enjoyable, so that it means when I'm thinking about these symptoms, I am partly distracted by the fact that I'm making a page, if you see what I mean, so that I'm not completely overwhelmed by thinking about the symptom I'm exploring. And in this page, the symptom I'm exploring is the way that I feel separate from the world. So I've kind of done a collage here with a hole in it, with my eye peeking through. That's the first thing I ever drew in my life. Because I started learning to draw at this sort of stage in my life. I drew this eye and I thought, oh, that was really fun, and it does look a bit like an eye. I'd like to do more drawing, and I started following YouTube videos which help teach you how to draw and paint and etc, etc. I had lots of fun with that, as you will see later. But that was my very first drawing, and that, yeah, as I said, I'm exploring that particular symptom, feeling separate from the world, feeling that you're looking in from the outside and you're not really part of it, or perhaps sometimes I feel like it's not even real. I've been known to say to my partner, oh my goodness, you're a real person, aren't you? You've really got feelings. And he'd be like, well, yes. But it's because for me, sometimes the world doesn't feel all that real. This one I was exploring the way in which I lose time. And that is a very distressing symptom for me. And that's the one that resulted in me having to eventually retire on ill health from work, which I miss. I still miss work. And I obviously miss the income. Who wouldn't? But I miss, I do miss, because it's kind of partly part of your identity is tied up in the work that you do quite often. Anyway, this was all about losing time, and as you can see, I've taken pictures of clocks, and this is my befuddled brain that doesn't know how it's wearing really half the time. So that was that page. This one was a nicer one. This one is more about soothing, and I've put here how I use music to soothe a heavy heart. So when I'm feeling really down, I will listen to music, not sad music. I will listen to music to try and lift my mood. And so I've got here my black heart. I've got a black heart. That's sad, isn't it? But I've put little wings on it because I feel like it might be possible to lift that heart up, and maybe one day it'll become a red heart again. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So that was that page. This one, I've put here that I am Sisyphus. Now, I don't know whether or not you all know the story of Sisyphus, but he obviously is from a myth. And his punishment for wrongdoing was to have to push an enormous boulder up a mountain. When he got to the top, he had to let it come down again. Then he had to push it up again. So what I'm expressing here is my guilt. I feel that I've done something wrong, even though intellectually I know that I didn't. I'm not responsible for my abuse, but I have those guilt feelings for wrongdoing. But I also feel like I work really, really hard to keep myself grounded, to keep my symptoms hidden, to get through life. It's like pushing this enormous boulder up the mountain. And the idea of it coming back down and having to do it again, I think I'm trying to communicate here how pointless I sometimes feel life is. What's the point of it all? Why do I have to work this hard, and what for? What's the point? A lot of people get those kinds of existential moments. It can be quite problematic, obviously, for me. But I notice also, looking at it now, sometime after I've made this page, there is hope here too. Apart from the guilt and this feeling of pointlessness and how hard life is, there's also this beautiful little corner here with the sun rising, and there's butterflies, and I've got little flowers here. So maybe what I should start thinking about is how I can get help pushing this boulder. And it might get to the point where I can get help leaving it at the top of the mountain and not having to keep pushing it up the mountain again. So one of the things that's really nice about doing art journaling and then taking it with you to your therapy session is that, you know, you might see things in it that you didn't know you were putting there. Your therapist might see things in there that you didn't know you were putting there. And it gives you a starting point for a discussion of that symptom. And the last page I share with you, this one's all about fear. And the picture I've drawn here is supposed to be me and my fear, but the fact that I use a mask to conceal it. So I put on my happy face and a positive sort of presentation of myself to the world, and the fear is hidden underneath. And I'm not quite sure what the like little drops of blood are there for, but I also put a quotation in here, and this is from a book that I read a long time ago, but I really enjoyed it. It was called The Life of Pi by Jan. Is that an, I can't, I've squished the paper, I can't see whether it says Nartel or Martel, but The Life of Pi. And the quotation says, "I must say a word about fear. It is life's only true opponent. Only fear can defeat life. It is a clever, treacherous adversary. How well I know. It has no decency, respects no law or convention, shows no mercy. It goes for your weakest spot, which it finds with unnerving ease. It begins in your mind always. So you must fight hard to express it. You must fight hard to shine the light of words upon it. Because if you don't, if your fear becomes a wordless darkness that you avoid, perhaps even manage to forget, you open yourself up to further attacks of fear because you never truly fought the opponent who defeated you." I found that quotation so helpful. The idea of using words to tackle your fears in your journal, I think, is so important, in my opinion. And also the fact that if you don't deal with these things, that they're always there ready to burst out at any moment, especially if you have complex PTSD. So you get the idea. Now, this kind of journaling, as I said, I really wouldn't recommend that you do unless you are currently having therapy with a qualified person who can keep you emotionally safe while you explore some of these difficult ideas, and the reason I haven't shown you any more is because I think the rest of the pages are quite triggering. So instead of, I'm not obviously going to put that in my therapy journal with these, but what I think I would do is I would use a mixed media insert. I've got a mixed media here because it's reminded me how much I enjoyed in some respects doing those pages. But what I'm going to do in this one is self-soothing. So for example, the image I showed you of the heart and how I use music to try and lift my spirits, I want to fill this one with ideas like that, the things that I do that are self-soothing, that help me cope, that maybe will help me heal. And I think that would be a really good thing to focus on in a self-help therapy journal. So there we are, an insert for notes, an insert for stream of consciousness, a gratitude journal, and a self-soothing journal. And I'm going to pop all of those into my Olive Traveller's Notebook. In fact, I will do that now, which means I have to take out all the bits that I currently have in here. So I shall do that. Now I do have a sketchbook in here. You wouldn't believe how long this sketchbook is. It's been in here waiting for me to finish it. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish this sketchbook. I mean, these pictures are years old when I was first learning to do colour pencil drawing. And I don't do very much colour pencil drawing anymore because it takes time, and my YouTube channel takes time, and I'm always losing time, so I don't have enough of it. But I do want to pick that up again, the colour pencil drawing, because it's really fun. But the last thing I did in here was a pencil drawing of Queen Elizabeth II. That was sort of prompted by the fact that she passed away, and that's a picture of her obviously when she was young. But I've got all these pages left to finish, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick that in a different cover. And the trouble is I get distracted by other things. So as I say, that was mostly colour pencil drawings that I've done, or pencil drawings that I've done in there. And currently I'm obsessed with trying to learn how to paint with gouache. So I've got this sketchbook that I'll probably never finish that I'm doing gouache paintings in. So that was a tutorial I did from, what's her name? Oh no. I'll have to link it down below, the name of the, because they're really good tutorials. And that mushroom one, and apples was hers. That one I did by myself. I love avocado pears and some chilies. And I really loved how these oranges came out, the little orange segments, but I didn't like the oranges. Couldn't quite work out how to do the, or how to represent the texture of the orange skin, peel, whatever you want to call it. What else did I do in here? I did some random eyes and a face. And oh, that's my little Olive, my smaller one, this one. and I really loved how that box came out, even though it was really simple. That's this little box here I used as a sort of, what do you call it? I don't know. Reference. That's it. Here I did a cup and then some croissants at a really peculiar angle. I don't know why. I don't know what they look like. They're coming up in the air, don't they? An exploding burger and some onions and a garlic. That's all I've done in this one so far. But I like this one. Will it ever get finished? If I ever do finish it, I'll be so proud of myself. But we'll see. I always have too many things on the go. I've got a half painted pastel painting, soft pastel painting, sitting on the floor over there. I just start things and I don't finish, which is a sad business, isn't it? Anyway, let's get back to this. I'm totally digress then. I also have in here a graphite pencil sketchbook. So these ones are just graphite pencil drawings. And again, I did these years and years and years ago, and then I never finished the little booklet. So I need to finish this little booklet. So might put that in my everyday carry and see if that encourages me to finish it. I think I've tried that before and it didn't work, but let's try again. I've got an accordion insert in here that I'll need to find a home for. So let's take that one out. I don't know where I'm going to put that one. I'll have a think. It's really thin though, so it could go anywhere. Right, so I'm left with a dashboard. So for those of you that don't have traveller's notebooks, some of us use these plastic things as dashboards just for decoration. This was sent to me by Louise over at Coffee Tea Paper. She made me that, so that's staying. And this came from Emily, one of my Happy Mail Friends, and I really love it. And I think that's another one from Louise. And that's a collage I did myself. I'm just going to leave it like that. I really like it. And then I've got this little folder that my partner gave me an advent calendar from the Coffee Monsters Co. And one of the presents was this little folder. So I'm going to keep that in here. And my zipper folder and a little wallet folder. So let's pop the inserts in and decide where I'm going to put them. Okay, so I cut out all the shuffling about when I was trying to decide what order to put my inserts in, and they're all now in my journal. So I've got my dashboard, I have my stream of consciousness insert first, and then I have my gratitude journal. Then I've got this lovely folder that Louise from Coffee Tea Paper made for me, and I'm going to use this to collect things in that are really special to me. And I've started it off with the ticket that she gave me from her journal meetup. Then I've got my notes insert, which needs decorating, and the zipper insert. I've put some page flags in here so I can use those to mark places in my notes, and I have my mixed media insert ready to do my self-soothing journaling. So just to finish off this video, what I thought I would do to give it a nice lovely calm ending, I am going to decorate the front of this journal. I'm not going to chat through it. Instead, I am going to use a little piece of music that my son, who's 15, composed yesterday, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's not the best of recordings because he's just recorded it on his phone, but nevertheless I think it's beautiful and I will enjoy sharing it with you. I had so much fun decorating the front of this insert. Thank you so much to my lovely YouTube friends over at Coffee Tea Paper and at Snippets and Scraps for sending me all these lovely elements that I could make a gorgeous page. And I have a happy mail to open, and I wanted to share this with you because I am feeling quite low in my mood at the moment, and I just wanted to share how much somebody reaching out to me and sending me something really helps me feel that there are people out there that care about me, that I am able to form relationships and friendships. And oh, it's just so exciting. And look at this beautiful envelope. So this is from Jackie in the Netherlands, and that's another thing that's so exciting. I've had happy mails from Snippets and Scraps from Hong Kong, Snippets and Scraps when she moved to India, and now she's living in Scotland. There's Louise in Australia. Oh, I can't name everybody because it'd take me ages, and I'd probably be worried I forgot somebody. But there is people in the US. I've got a number of happy mail friends in the US, and also in Germany, and also New Zealand and the UK, of course. Mustn't forget my local happy mail friends. And I love all of you, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of you at the same time as opening this one. Now let's see what is inside. Okay, so I've opened the envelope. I will be saving this lovely little bird sticker, and I'll cut that piece out here to go in my journal with the letter, and also this beautiful little stamp here. Ooh, so exciting. And the other thing that I really wanted to share is that whilst I know lots of you have seen me opening Happy Mails, which are stuffed full of goodies, but whilst I love that, and of course I love that, and I've had so many beautiful gifts and I'm really grateful for them, it's also just as wonderful to receive a small happy mail where somebody has written to me or reached out to me with a few little bits that they think I will enjoy. And I can see straight away, looking at this, that I have this beautiful sample of washies. So cool. I really love that one. And these little samples are just perfect for putting on a journaling page. And I love all the green colours. In fact, I like all of them. Wonderful. And I have here a little piece of pet tape. Oh, look at that. I'm going to want to put that on something white so that you can see the gold. I've never seen this one. Isn't that cool? So it's got little gold birds, gorgeous duck, and some really pretty flowers. And that looks like, yes, that looks like it might be really similar to the bird that's on the front here. So that is really pretty, and I will use that in my journals. And then the best bit of any happy mail is the note and the letter, and it doesn't have to be a long letter. It could be a short letter or a long letter, but it just helps you to form a relationship with the person that you're writing to. And then, ooh, look here. So we have a little stamp which says new memories, and look at that. That is so cool. What is it? It's like a person. Is it a person? Oh, that is so cool. And it's like a little flap that she's made. Oh, I do love this. Oh, where shall I use it? So we've got moon phases here, and another little stamp that she's cut out and attached. This and that, and a coffee cup. Woohoo! With a coffee filter jug thing. I really love that. Oh wow. So yes, I'm going to read my letter. Now, I don't normally share the letter, but I just want one little quotation from this letter to share with you. And she's written, I send you this paper hug so you know that there is someone in the world thinking of you. That's just brought tears to my eyes. So lovely. I just think this couldn't have come at a better time. It's made me feel so cared for, and it's absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much, Jackie. I really, really appreciate the friendship that we're forming. And thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed my son's beautiful music, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye.